want to talk to you about foreign policy. You're the ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. You were very vocally and publicly opposed to the Iran deal. You felt that there were flaws there that you couldn't support. There are new revelations this week, new fallout about that $400 million payment that was converted into foreign currency given to the Iranians. This week, the State Department admitting that there was some direct connection with the release of Americans who were being held in. About that, I want to play what President Obama said August 4th and then what the State Department is saying this week.
We do not pay ransom. We didn't here, and we won't in the future. Precisely because if we did, then we would start encouraging Americans to be targeted.
It would have been foolish, imprudent, irresponsible for us not to try to maintain maximum leverage. If you're asking me, was there a connection in that regard at the end game, I'm not going to deny that.
To a lot of people, it sounds like a ransom payment. What was it?
Well, first, this was done, as you know, announced in January of this year. Secretary Clinton was no longer Secretary of State. This is under Secretary Kerry. Clearly, what was done here is we paid money that we owed. We were going to have to pay this money. It was clear. And to the extent that had anything to do with hostages, I think Secretary Kerry made it clear that money would not be released unless our hostages were back home. So I think what they're saying is, no, it's not paying ransom. We won't do that. But we made it clear, we understand we owe the money, and we're going to have to pay the money, but we want to make sure that our people are protected.
Okay, a top Iranian general said this, quote, "This money was returned for the freedom of the U.S. spies," his words, "and it was not related to the nuclear negotiations." So if there's a perception here, regardless of whether anyone wants to use the word ransom or not, that there is leverage in taking Americans and getting something in exchange, isn't the perception part of the problem anyway, especially for our enemies? We've had at least two more Americans taken by Iranian authorities since this payment.
Well, first, let's make it clear. Whatever the Iranians say, you can believe just about the opposite. They rarely tell us what is going on. America has a very strong policy. The Obama administration has carried out that policy. No, we will not pay ransom because that only encourages more to be taken. So I agree with that point, but we are not going to pay ransom. Here, we had to make this payment. It was a matter of when we were going to make it. It was being litigated in international courts. It was money that America that predates this Iranian administration. It was going to have to be paid, and the administration made judgments as to when to pay it.
Okay, but you can understand the perception would cause a problem.
I understand perception, but understand, of course, that this was well understood at the time in January, has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. She was not Secretary of State at the time. I just make sure people understand.
Right, not asking in that context.